Hi, welcome to the Way of Jesus podcast. I'm your co-host, Nanti.
My name's Ross. I'm the other co-host. We're going to be trying to lead you through the life of Jesus, the way of Jesus, one might even say. And Alison and Naya here are going to, be giving us a stop tour through the life of Jesus. So could you guys please introduce yourselves?
Yeah. So as Ross said, I'm Alison, and I used to be a teacher many years ago. Used to be a history teacher, so I love all the history around the Bible and what we're looking at today. I'm delighted to be in this beautiful location and to chat through Luke's Gospel together.
Yeah, I'm Naya. I finished my degree 2 years ago in theatre, and since then I've been, similar to Alison, working with students across the island really to look into what the Bible says about Jesus. I'm also working in the arts, so I'm kind of coming at things quite often from more of a cultural perspective, so that'll be interesting to get into as well.
Thank you so much, guys. So as I said, I'm a psychology student. That's just an interesting concept. I've been asked to head into the lab, the psychology lab, and cook up a question to ask our co-hosts and guests here. So I hope they're quaking in their boots, because this is going to be deep. It's going to be philosophical. It's going to cut to the core, okay? So here we go. If you were a kitchen utensil / item in the kitchen, what would you be and why?
Wow. Well, I love being in the kitchen.
Okay.
And I love cooking and preparing. So what would I like to be? I think I'd like to be, a really, really good chopping knife.
Cuts to the core there. I like that.
Does the job well. That's what I'd like to be.
Okay, that's a great answer. Maya, what about yourself? You look perplexed.
I am so perplexed. I was going to say knife, but then I was like, you just said knife.
No.
Maybe it'd be like a spoon, stirring things, bringing things together.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, I think
I like that.
I'll go with that.
Stir.
Not making a stir. I mean, occasionally I like to do that too.
What else? A fork?
A fork.
I don't understand why I would be a fork. So I guess a fork. I don't know why, but yes, I'd be a
Just for the vibes. Yeah.
But you?
Yeah, I was gonna say an air fryer, but I think that's a bit too prideful. Like, cause air fryer is kind of, in my opinion, like the
top
goat.
notch.
That's what I'm saying. So I might just combine both of you guys' answers and say a spork. I think I kind of give like the vibes of both of you guys combined. So that's our deep inquisitive question for today.
We've really,
Got to know each
that's who we are.
We've gotten to know each other.
How's it going, guys? We're in the streets of Cork, the People's Republic, and we're asking people a few questions about life. Let's see how it goes. Do you think a story can change someone's life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say so. I think if it's not too preachy.
Definitely. I think it's about if the story has value and if it's compelling, then it can definitely change someone's life.
I think also as Irish people, I feel like we tend to, even when you're at a pub or just a bar somewhere, even talking with people, you're just mesmerized by even any simple bit of story, because we share quite a lot of our own personal stuff, and it's quite, just
venting,
connects. It connects us a lot. Maybe you'll relate to something, I guess.
I agree, because we do acting, so if we didn't believe that, we wouldn't have a job. So obviously.
Yeah.
Do you think a story can change someone's life?
I think so. Personally, the Bible for me.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. I've read the Bible many times over. It's changed my life. It's made a very big impact in my life.
I do. I think it maybe depends on the story, but if it's a really, really deep one or meaningful one, I'd say it could. Totally, yeah.
Okay, so we're hearing a lot about this Gospel of Luke, which we know was written 2,000 years ago, okay? We're in 2025 now. The question is, why should we bother reading this ancient document?
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. I mean, most of us, if we do read, are probably used to reading novels that are maybe max 200 years old. I don't know if you're into classics. But yeah, this is a story that is 2,000 years old. It's an ancient story, really. And I mean, even looking back further into the Bible, it gets older and older, but still, I mean, people have always been looking at it. And I think we all do come to a point where we say, I'm not sure what life's about, we come to a place where we feel like there's more, or there should be more to what we're experiencing, what we're seeing. And people have been asking those questions throughout time, quite literally. So I think it's fair to look at the answers they found, and consider them seriously, and be like, maybe there is some truth in this, and if there is truth in it, I think we should consider it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you think about why Luke wrote his gospel, we'll look at that in a minute. He says that Jesus made these massive claims about who he was, about his identity. And as people encounter Jesus in the Gospels, Jesus is constantly being confrontational and showing who he is. And there's this suggestion, and it's very strongly stated in Luke's Gospel, that Jesus is the Son of God, that he is God in the flesh. And if that is true, that had implications for people in the first century, but it also has implications for us in the 21st century. So I think we need to at least look to see if it's true or if it rings true today.
Wow, that's interesting. So when we look at, the life of Jesus, we want to read more, of course, but we also want to know who Luke is. So who was Luke anyway, and what motivated him to write this story?
Yeah, so Luke introduces himself to us at the beginning of the Gospel of Luke. So at the very beginning, if I could just read a few verses from Luke's Gospel. This is what he says in chapter 1, verse 1. Many have undertaken to draw up an account of the things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who from the first were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. With this in mind, since I myself have carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I too decided to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the certainty of the things you have been taught. So it's really interesting how Luke is saying, I've employed the historical method. I have gone and talked to eyewitnesses. I have carefully investigated, but not just investigated, I've also put it together in an orderly account. So the things I've written are not, it's not like a scrapbook, just like banging it, things. It's orderly, it's written with purpose.
It's not like once upon a time.
No, not at all. And he's saying there were eyewitnesses to these events, and he talks about people who were servants of the word. So what he's talking about are people who are sharing the message of Jesus. It would have been called the word. And actually, he's written it for somebody. His name's Theophilus. He's called he calls him excellent Theophilus. So Theophilus is a Greek name, a Greek word, a Greek name meaning lover of God. So it might have been a code name because he's most excellent. So he might have been sort of a nobleman or someone, but someone who's seeking to know that what he's been told about Jesus is true. And so Luke implies this historical method and writes it down for us. And he actually writes 2 volumes. So he writes the book of Luke and also a book later on in the Bible called Acts of the Apostles. So the things that the followers of Jesus did. So he says in the beginning of the book of Acts, he says, I told you what Jesus began to do. So that was in the book of Luke. Implications are then that the book of Acts is what Jesus continues to do, but this time through his followers.
Interesting.
And what I love as a little history geek is that Luke actually writes himself into the story in the book of Acts. So there's different passages in Acts where he says, and then we went here, or we did this. And so Luke obviously met Paul, who was one of the followers of Jesus, and travelled with him and saw him doing what he did. And he went with Paul to Jerusalem, which is probably where he met these eyewitnesses and these people who he wants to record what they said. Probably as we go through, you'll notice some little eyewitness details, some little things like he talks about Mary remembering and pondering things in her heart. That's he's spoken to her. He knows what she said. And he also name checks lots of disciples. So there's people who mean nothing to us, but he'll say, oh, there was Martha, and there was Mary, and there's Joanna, and there's Simeon, and these name checks. And the implications are, you can go and check this out with these people. They're real people, you can know them. But he also name checks the governors of the area and the names of the high priests and the locations. Again, he's wanting to ground it in history, in the political history, in the world history, but also in the geography of where he is. So when we read the book of Luke, it's not some kind of mystical fantasy world. It's a real world. It's really set in time. And we have really good reason to believe that this was all written down within 30 years of the life and death of Jesus. Because there are things that happened around 70 AD in Jerusalem that Luke definitely would have written down in his...
Destruction of the temple. Right?
Yeah, the destruction of the temple. Jesus prophesies that. But if you're Luke, you're going to say, well, this happened, recently or whatever. He doesn't mention it at all. So by 30 years' time, he's written all of the book of Luke and the book of Acts, which is so amazing for us.
I guess it's really helpful because it then shows the flow of how, the disciples became the apostles and how, so many things happened after that. So I love that the book does have a flow with the author.
It's clear that Luke is writing a real story about real people in a real historical moment. This isn't just a fairy tale. But at the same time, there's still that thought in my head that this is still written 2,000 years ago. Like, is it really relevant to us? This is a real world that Luke is living in, but what is that world like? Is it like this world that we're living in now? Like, in this historical moment? Or how is it similar? How is it different?
Yeah, well, it's obviously not a fairy tale. We probably do need a bit of context. Yeah, as I said, it's quite different from the world we are living in now. For one, Israel at the time would have been under Roman occupation. So we get glimpses of that as Luke speaks about Roman officials and leaders, names some of them specifically, and really grounds us in that. But we do kind of have that hanging thread or just even presence of the Roman Empire looming across Israel at the time. And then something that's really prominent throughout Luke is the different, I suppose, religious groups and just the Jewish faith, and the context of that might be quite helpful as well to know as we read through Luke. So what comes up time and time again are the Pharisees, which are a group of religious leaders that would have been very, very strong in enforcing the law that we read in the earlier books of the Bible, in the Torah, which would have been the Jewish Bible in better terms. And how Jesus does actually quite often oppose them. So they would have been really strong on following all the laws to a T, really specifically. It's actually quite a pressurized situation that Jesus comes into that Luke writes about. So I think just having that context, greater view of the, I suppose we could call it world of Luke, is really helpful as we read it. And we'll, I think, see more and more of that unpacked over the next couple of episodes, I guess. That's what we're doing. But as much as there are differences that we need to kind of wrap our heads around and put us into their shoes, there's also something really familiar about Luke. Like, as we read it, we still are seeing people ask the same questions that people are asking of Jesus in Luke. There's still oppression, there's still people weaker in society, and we're looking for inclusion. There is still just that void that people, I suppose, feel as well, that Jesus speaks into and comes into. And I guess we'll unpack all of that as well, but I just think all the themes that Luke brings up, while it's such a different historical context, are still so relevant. That's something that I just really love about reading the Gospels.
Yeah, it's really intriguing, isn't it? Because Luke is not one of the disciples of Jesus. So, we kind of assume that the Gospels were written by his disciples, but Luke is someone who became a Christian later, and he's Greek. And we know from some of the writings of Paul that Luke was a doctor. So
cool.
So Luke is, very cool. And so Luke is interested in health and well-being. And he records these stories of Jesus doing incredible miracles. And he often gives little details about the illness that Jesus is healing. But more than that, Luke is really, really interested in how Jesus actually turns everything upside down. So to be in Jesus' inner circle, you don't need to be powerful, wealthy, cool, popular. You actually need to be weak and poor and humble. In fact, Jesus doesn't have an inner circle because Jesus comes to include people, not exclude, which is another big theme of Luke's gospel, is that of inclusion and bringing people in. Luke is really interested in how Jesus deals with foreigners. So what I mean by that is people who are not Jewish. And so you had Jesus interacting with Roman people, with people from outside the sort of boundaries of the ancient areas of Israel. And Luke loves to see Jesus in conversation with them, because I guess he's putting himself in their shoes and saying, oh, that's me. I'm the foreigner. I'm the excluded one. And as a woman, one of the things I'm really intrigued by Luke is how much emphasis he gives to Jesus' interactions with women. And so he includes the women who travel with Jesus. He gives us the list of them, which is amazing. And he shows us Jesus teaching women. So there's this lovely story of Mary and Martha, and Mary sits at his feet like a disciple. Like, it's just so countercultural. But also, Luke will give you a miracle of Jesus healing a man, but he'll give you the similar one of Jesus healing a woman. There's often repeated male and female. So Luke is just so interested in all these issues of bringing in the outsider, bringing in the excluded, treating women with dignity and respect. So, from my point of view, I love it.
I hope this episode was very helpful into giving insight on the Gospel of Luke and the life of Jesus. Do stay and come along with us as we explore it through the other episodes. And yeah, I would like to ask you guys, what story do you find striking, compelling, beautiful, or resonant in the Gospel of Luke, without giving too much spoilers?
Should I kick off?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So one of my favourite stories is in Luke chapter 7. Luke chapter 7, Jesus is with a crowd of people going to a city called Nain. And as he's going in, a woman is coming out. She's a widow. And she's got one son, and he has died, and they're taking him out to bury him. And you can imagine she's lost everything. She's lost her husband, she's lost her son. Like, who's going to protect her, provide for her? And Jesus, through the crowd, sees this little widow woman. I don't know, she's little, I imagine she is. And he sees her in the midst of it all. And it says his heart goes out to her. He's filled with compassion. And he goes and he says, don't cry. And he brings her son back to life. And there's a lovely phrase. He gives the son back to his mother. And I just think it's so beautiful. Jesus sees in the midst of the crowds the individual who needs him. Yeah. It's lovely.
That's beautiful. Can I jump in right after that? Because my favorite story is basically right after it, also in Luke chapter 7. And it really strikes on a theme that I just love in the Gospel of Luke, which is that kind of upside down kingdom, it's called, where basically Jesus opposes the proud and kind of lifts up the poor, the spiritually poor, the emotionally poor even, and those who are kind of looked at shamefully. So there's this one story at the end of chapter 7. I'll let you guys read it. I won't spoil it all. But it's about a sinful woman. And in those days, that usually would have meant to do with sexual sin, which it would have been a very taboo topic. Everyone would have probably known her, what she's done, and would have crossed the street, really, if she was walking. And just the way that Jesus interacts with her and shows her such grace and such love is so touching. And the contrast between how she sees Jesus versus how the people who are meant to recognize Jesus see him, like these religious leaders you're talking about. That's just really striking to me, but I'll let you guys read that story yourselves.
Yeah, it's a great story. I think that's the one I usually go to, but
Sorry, I stole it.
That's okay. I'll pick a different one, which I think is the one that you talked about earlier, between Martha and Mary and Jesus. And Martha is there doing all this work in the house, preparing, which would have been, expected of her, and it would have been expected of Mary, to be honest, if a rabbi like Jesus comes to the house and teaches, that they get everything ready, make food, prepare food for him and his disciples. But Mary sits down at his feet among his disciples and listens. And I mean, we're so used to that being the case, that women are able to take those seats and learn and listen and discuss things, but at the time that just wouldn't have been the case. And Martha goes, again, I won't spoil it all, but she's like, how can you let her do that? And Jesus is like, no, she's chosen the right thing. And I just love Jesus's heart in that, of recognizing individuals, recognizing the poor and those who quite often wouldn't have been allowed to, consider faith seriously or do certain things, and actually say, no, all those expectations aren't as important as knowing me, and you've chosen the right thing by trying to know me. So yeah, that's the one I'll go with.
Yeah.
We flipped the script on Nancy. What's your favorite one?
For me, it's when he tells stories. So it's called parables. For me, it's in Luke 15, verses 11. And he talks about a parable or a story about this young son who runs away. But when he comes back home, he expects to be called, to be a slave. But he's called back in love by his father. And that story is so beautiful to me because, it's just out of this world. So, that's mine.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a famous one too, right? The Prodigal Son. Maybe some of you guys have heard of that, but I'm sure there'll be lots of things that you'll have heard about and maybe things you haven't heard about as you read through the Gospel of Luke. But we really just want to invite you, all of us here at the Way of Jesus podcast, want to invite you to read through this amazing book. Check it out for yourself. Maybe you've never read it. Maybe you have no history in Christianity at all. Or maybe you're a Christian. Read through it. And the Bible says the Word of God is powerful and living and active. So just check it out for yourself. And please, stick around for our next episode as we see you next time. Thanks for coming.